Welcome to Landria Anka on YouTube, here to help you break through those fears and live a beautiful, awesome life. You know, a friend of mine just asked me, about all of this spiritual channel and this whole thing that I'm doing here to help other people and how I got into it. And the truth is, I never planned this. And I want to talk about that today in this video. And I had to explain that I was actually going for something completely different, and it led me to this. And in the meantime, between step A and step B, I went with what I knew was right. Even though part of me didn't want to do it, and even though there are still underlying fears, there's always some fears along our pathway. It's sort of a checks and balance system for us. I didn't allow it to stop me, but I allowed life to take me in certain directions. I've always pretty much operated that way. I want to talk to you today about flowing with life. How do you flow with life? How do you allow life to take you where you need to be? So let's talk about that, because a lot of you think that where you need to be is always this really awesome, beautiful, happy place. And we're not accepting the fact that where we need to be sometimes is feeling some pain, having some suffering, and experiencing some things, so that we understand those earthly experiences are not really where we want to stay, that those are temporary highs, that those don't really solve any problems for us. And you already know this. But I have a question for you. If you know this, why are you fighting it? Because any suffering that you're having right now is because you're really fighting that. And you know it, but you're still fighting it. You don't want that. You don't want the lessons, and the fact that you fight the lessons keeps you there. Can you flow with life? Now that might mean doing some pretty radical stuff in other people's eyes. It's never been radical to me. Nothing I do is radical. People think that you're supposed to go along a certain path, and what happens, and I've got a video I'm going to release on this, we end up on paths we never planned for, and we find it difficult to get out of those. We get stuck on them. And then we get opportunities constantly, and the traditional and what we consider the real world tells us that we're not supposed to do that. That's too radical, that's too strange, that's too unknown. And we're so afraid of stepping into that, and I'm not sure why. At what point did we as human beings decide that we couldn't step out into that unknown zone? Well, you know who does? Inventors, highly successful business people, creative people who do stuff that's really out there. And sometimes can't even talk about it because it's so out there, people couldn't possibly relate to it, understand. Now, our world is changing. That's the good news. You'll see a lot of things on television with psychics, mediums, healers, showing that these people are not afraid now to tell about things that are not normal, not acceptable, not traditional. Yet they know that it's time to step out and show that we all have these things going on that we don't talk about, but we need to. And when we start to talk about them, it allows other people to come out and reveal that they've had thoughts of doing something different with their lives, or have regrets about things that they didn't do. I mean, think about, what are your regrets? Usually things that you didn't try or go after, right? It's never the thing you did and you failed. Maybe it's the regret that you feel like you failed because you didn't put in enough effort. You held back. But it's never because you didn't achieve your goals. In fact, the fact that you went after them expanded your universe, your reality, because the message is that you're in expansive mode. And so the universe probably sent you other things that took you in a completely different direction, or the same one that opened up gateways to give you the answers you needed. And that's when flowing with life makes sense. Not the things that you didn't achieve along the way when you went down that path. And that's when we get stuck. We're so afraid that it's not going to happen the way we want. I'm going after this business. Oh my gosh, I didn't make $1 million my first year. We're not realizing what we're learning along the way, and that these are accumulative lessons that are going to give us all the things that we need and want. And that's going to start changing along the way as you open up to the flow of life. Because all of a sudden, when you're expanding, you're not thinking in that small-minded place. That place where you think the world is this big and you're happy to have, $1,000. You're not even going there, because when you're flowing with life, you realize, why was I shooting so small? The universe is endless. It's limitless. So when you're flowing with life, you try things and maybe things don't work out, but you realize how expansive it is, because now the universe is starting to send you a lot of opportunities because you're flowing with it. You're going with everything. You're not fighting what's happening. I don't like that I didn't get what I wanted. I don't like that I tried this thing and it's not the way I thought it should be. Because you're thinking from an ego, human control viewpoint. You're coming from that whole place, which hasn't been working, right? Instead of the expansive one that everything I'm getting is exactly what I need. I'm going to accept it. Wow, darn it. That didn't happen the way I wanted it to. Okay, I'm not supposed to be there. So what happened with me is I realized I had to make a move. I quit my investment banking job. I didn't want to be in that world anymore. And I knew if I didn't do something about it, I was going to stay on that path that I didn't want to be on, because it made sense to the world. But it didn't make sense to me, and it sure didn't make sense to my health or well-being. I was struggling constantly with this and trying to make it work. And in my gut, I knew things just weren't going to work. So finally, I did a radical thing, and I'll tell you what, it wasn't so radical. When I quit, I realized I'm free. I just opened the gateway, and nobody can ever take your experience away. There's 25 years in the finance industry that nobody was going to take away. My contacts are still there. In fact, they're even stronger now. So I took that with me. Now, what am I going to do with it? Anything I want. Anything I want. And somehow, life started to take me where I needed to be. And things started to happen and work for me. And then the doors opened for all kinds of opportunities, and they continue to. And I acted on things that were presented to me. People say, well, you showed up on a certain time or whatever. I'm like, yeah. And we can say yes or no. You can say yes or no to it. That's free will. But there's no limits to what you can do. And if you are blocking that, well, you're going to go down that pathway that's not feeling very good, even though it makes sense in the real world, right? The real world is whatever you create. Are you going to flow with it? Are you going to flow with that and let the universe take you where you need to be, and ask for that, and know that it's going to happen, and know that it already has happened, and be okay with being surprised? How great is that? Wow. Yeah. Wow, things are going to show up that you didn't expect. Opportunities, people, jobs, money. And when you go with it, the answer is always yes. I was at lunch with some friends of mine yesterday, and somebody just said, always say yes. I thought that's really great. And somebody looked at me and said, you always say yes, don't you? And I said, yeah, I do. They just knew that. I say yes. Even when it's painful, I'll say, yes, okay. I'm supposed to gain something from this. I need to take a good look at this. What is it? And really learn on when things are going wrong, how I'm thinking and feeling. So I see a lot of comments come over. It's like, oh, you've hit a brick wall, and you're going back into that thinking. You're sort of like, we go from, oh yes, I'm manifesting, everything's great. Oh, this happened, what do I need to do? And I thought, wait a minute, why did you switch gears? You were flowing with everything, but now as soon as it's not happening the way you want it to, you're not flowing with that. You want things to be different. You're hoping they'll be different. You want to change things. If you can release it, the universe knows what you want. Job, relationship, money, it's all the same things. We all want to be happy, right? We just want to be really happy. And if you seek that, everything's going to flow, and all of those things that reinforce your happiness are going to show up. Joy. Joyful. And it's not always going to be a high every day. There will be times when you have to deal with some feelings of being human, some experiences. But don't fight that. Flow with life. Can you let it take you places? And you'll get opportunities, and maybe you can just say yes. Can you just say yes? Even though it's going to make other people uncomfortable, you're not here to please other people. You're here to live your life. And living your life and being a good person is not always putting you first, is taking care of you, but also knowing that what you're doing is actually contributing to the collective consciousness in a very positive way. So in that frame of reference, you should definitely take care of you. Put that mask on when that plane's in trouble. Put it on you. Because if you pass out, you can't help anybody else. So you've got to take care of this first. Make this joyful and happy. Everybody else around you will benefit. And that is, you're coming from a positive place. And so when you're walking around, you don't see other people as negative. You see them as other beautiful souls. You will have a positive attitude about other people. It's not always going to be about you and what you can get. It's about, I need to be a joyful, happy person. I need to say yes. I need to flow with life. What is life offering me right now? Start thinking about this. How many times have you held back and then you have regrets because you thought, what was I so afraid of? Why was I so afraid to try that? So it didn't work out. Well, big deal. I'll never know. I would have had that experience, and maybe it would have worked out. Life always works out. Say yes. Say yes. You are whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. You have the whole universe around you, in you. You're it. Start using it. We can create unbelievable things together because we are one energy, and I'm counting on you. Namaste.